What do friendly spiders, rubber gloves, and small breasts have to do with each other? They all might be too dangerous for you to see in Australia. The reason is censored. The Commonwealth of Australia has a constitution based strongly on that of the United States. But unlike the US, Australia's constitution has no Bill of Rights. The only legal freedom of speech Australian citizens enjoy regards political discourse. Personal expression? Not so much. Australia's constitution only implies a right to talk about politics. It's a selective freedom. And selectivity is magical stuff. In May of 2000, after 16 years of repeated attempts, the Australian government officially abandoned NVE classification for motion pictures. There was just rated X, and it was banned almost everywhere. But even that was better than being denied a rating altogether. Today, visitors to Australia are supposed to claim any illegal pornography while going through customs. Illegal pornography is not rated X. It's called RC, or Refused Classification. And the job of rounding it up falls on Australia's customs and border protection agencies. The reason something might be refused classification are not expressly stated by either the classification board or Australian customs. But over the years, adult entertainment distributors and concerned citizens have reverse engineered a partial list. It includes portrayals of sexual violence and assault, both blatant and inferred, in all cases of non-consent. And that makes sense. But it also includes an enormous list of fetishes, which include urination, bondage, spanking, tattoos, piercing, and anything deemed demeaning, even if it's expressly consensual. Spanking is capped at 1. A single spank is not demeaning, but 2, get out of here, you pervert. Sexual urination? Well, of course that includes female ejaculation because someone needs to have a sex talk with the Australian government, I guess. And implied violence can mean anything from a violent newspaper headline in the background to cocktail swords. Yes, those little plastic swords on drinks. Can't have those in a sex scene, somebody might get hurt. And the doctor putting on a glove? Oof, well, that's not suggestive, but it counts. Pornographic media might be deemed violent or consent violating for vague inferences. Australian laws prohibit underage pornography as a violation of consent, and rightfully so. But it also prohibits porn where anybody even looks underage. And the way they determine that? Cup size. Adult actresses who are of legal age can still have their work banned in Australia for having small breasts, which means it's somebody's job to judge boobs. Yup, Australian Parliament actually has an itty-bitty titty committee in it somewhere, pointlessly enforcing body shaming of adult women, just like the certain types of ejaculation ban. Good work, guys. One of the most bizarre cases of censorship in Australia came in 2012, when an already 8-year-old episode of a children's cartoon was pulled from circulation for friendly spiders. A cartoon that showed characters playing with a spider was deemed too dangerous for children. Between 2000 and 2013, 12,600 people in Australia were hospitalized for spider bites, almost 1,000 cases a year. Once you know this, the idea of telling children spiders are harmless actually does seem legitimately dangerous for some parts of the world. It's hard to argue with the Australian hospital statistics. But what about porn? Pornographic images obviously can be disturbing to children directly, and that kind of violation of consent is illegal in Australia. But why do Australians believe that adults watching adults-only rated films are still likely to cause children harm from a distance? You can measure the poison in spider bites, but where do Australians get their measurements of indirect societal effects from X-rated films? If you've been watching carefully, you already know the answer. There. Who is that? His name is Rupert Murdoch, he owns the newspapers, and by the time our story began, he already owned so many, he had been knighted in Australia for his services to journalism. And not undeservedly, he created the nation's first and still most popular national paper. But he's also famous for another modern trend, tabloid journalism. Characterized by provocative headlines emphasizing scandals, Murdoch's tabloid journalism style began in Australia in 1960. But by 1980, he had already moved on to England and the US, becoming one of the most powerful media moguls on Earth. And wouldn't you know it, one of the hottest scandals of the early 1980s, which featured prominently in many of his papers? The video nasties. Many tabloids ran sensationalized headlines about violent, rated X movies being responsible for attacks, murders, and suicides throughout the 80s. These were, at the very best, mere editorializations. A significant number of people even thought rated X films featured portrayals of necrophilia, bestiality, or child pornography, even though those all qualify as violations of consent, which were already fully outlawed by 1984. The reality of the laws did not matter. The people believed what they read in the tabloids. Today, his company News Corp owns 58% of daily newspapers in Australia, including the most popular national paper, as well as the only pay TV news network and the most viewed news website. Australia's news media is the third most consolidated in the world, after Egypt and, drumroll please, China. Of course, despite tabloids being vehemently opposed to rated X materials, they were also the famous creators of Page 3 Girls, a train of topless models in tabloids that ran for decades. This is how you abuse a double standard. By blurring the line between newspapers, which could inflame passions with salacious topics, and traditional fiction, which couldn't, Mr. Murdoch found a way to have the best of both. Fiction protected by rights meant just for nonfiction, tabloids are a modern descendant of yellow or pulp journalism, a low-quality, ruthlessly marketed quasi-journalism, specifically designed to take advantage of the limits of the law. It's an old trick, but as Rupert Murdoch has proven, it still sells. Wanna like Censored? Sure. Wanna subscribe? Great. Wanna comment? Sorry, we'll talk about YouTube's censorious policies in a future episode. But for now, if you have something to say, we recommend make your own cartoon. Next time on Censored, what do military generals, interracial couples, and altitude have to do with each other? They're either things that give neckbeards a nosebleed, or they're things that are sometimes censored in the United States of America. Run! Run for your lives! Not again!